Holy shit, we've made it through 10. We're on episode 11.
Snake eyes, motherfucker.
It's shocking every time. Like every time I never know. I'm just looking at you guys to see if I've got the number right. Is it 11?
It is 11.
This is episode 11, and you've missed because Dave's only just hit the recording. You've missed a discussion on what we should talk about. We've done worse than normal, so we have about 14 seconds of prep for this episode, but it's as advertised as what you've come to expect.
Don't exaggerate how long.
At this point, like, they know what they signed up for. Like,
if you have made it to 11, that's your fault.
Yeah, this is on you now.
Yeah,
I got nothing. I have no advice for you.
This is now a moment.
This is now an ish you, not an ish me. That is that's how it goes. For the record, that's what my son told me the other day, which is wonderful to hear from your 14-year-old. Boys, what's going on? Dave's got Fat Mike in the background. It's kind of my favorite.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a NoFX celebration this year, let's be honest, right? And thinking back to the Punk Rock Museum in Vegas, and I just thought, what's better than to have a bit of, Fat Mike and his nipple on the podcast, right?
Just one headlight on that one.
One headlight.
Just the one. It's enough. I
mean, you got to be super. You got to be super comfortable in your own self to walk out on stage dressed like that, right? And looking like that.
I think Fat Mike he's experiencing a lot of comfort.
Yeah, I think so as well.
He's doing fine.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go see him in a little more than a week.
That's exciting.
That's cool.
The kiddo.
What's the venue?
Are you Portland, did you say?
No, my daughter and I. It's here in Denver, but it's I've never been there. I think it's probably a cattle yard, if I understand correctly.
Cattle yard. Nice.
Now, but it is outdoors, and it's gonna be 100. I think, if the prognostication is correct for that far out. It's going to be close to 100.
You should take a raft, man, just to get yourself out of that mosh pit a little bit and into some cooler air.
I saw a picture of a raft somewhere. Oh, what show was that? I thought of you, Dave. It's not the first time in a day that I've thought of you, but the raft certainly prompted feelings.
And I was on a call the other day, and one of the guys, and he knows who he is. One of the guys, he had a background image like this. This happens to me occasionally, right? I get on a work call and someone's just got a punk rock safety sort of background, and there were rafts going around at Glastonbury like 2 weeks ago.
Yes. I'm going to assume that this is because you've given people the idea, not because it's a normal idea.
Yeah, it wasn't a thing until you made
it. Just me and Ron didn't know about.
The podcast reaches so far and wide.
Yeah, that's it.
What was do we dare talk about the numbers, the metrics, as it were?
I haven't revisited the metrics since we did the metrics episode, so I guess that makes me
talk about them the other day, but I blacked out a little since then. But it's all over the world. That's great. If the folks in Luxembourg could step it up, I think there's one person.
If you know anybody in Luxembourg,
we're counting on you.
Where haven't we hit yet?
It's a long list.
Ron, we're still better to talk about the places that we have hit.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. That's fair.
This is about what is going right, not what isn't, Ron.
This is punk rock too.
I just want to point that out. Podcast 2. New view of podcasts. We're doing great. We are failing. We're failing safely. Ron. What do you got going on?
Speaking of failing safely, no, not much, man. I'm in this weird like limbo phase where I'm done with my defense, but I'm still working on my dissertation, which is really fucking
I think that's a scheduling problem.
We didn't actually ask about the thesis. We're kind of over it. Like, and our listeners,
I get the feeling
you're kind of over it, and your wife's kind of over it, and just everyone.
My advisors are kind of over it. I need them to like fucking approve it.
So well, and honestly, Dave needs to make room for talking about what articles he's published, not not what dissertation you've published.
Yes,
if we could just move this on to me, that would be great.
To me, it's really about Dave and publication. Dave, I always feel bad for myself because it's been a while.
We feel bad for you too.
I know.
Has it been a while?
Long list.
You got to sort yourself out, man.
Since I published anything, in a peer-reviewed sense, other than YouTube peers telling me I'm an asshole. So,
should we write something?
Yeah,
I mean, no, like,
or a comic
AI
book.
Can do it, right? We'll just download the transcripts of the last 10 episodes, and we'll just get 100%. AI to just say, write this into a peer-reviewed article.
Oh my God,
I love that for us.
Yeah,
and it's been a while since I've said I love that for us too, so it feels like it's time.
That's a
Ron. Who's in the background, by the way?
That's the Vandals. Maybe you've heard of them.
Oh, I've seen them. I love it.
And then she spoke, man. Then she spoke.
Yeah. I've been doing a little bit of cooking, listening to them while I cook, which is, I don't know, it's good. You know, it's kind of upbeat, fun cooking music.
He was cooking anarchy.
Cooking is in like MasterChef, or cooking is in like New Mexico cooking.
Yeah, it's more the latter than the former.
Okay.
What about
Anarchy burger and meth? I have dwarves behind me. Dwarves, that's a pretty killer band if you're into that sort of thing. And if you're listening to punk rock safety, you should be into that sort of thing.
What are you up to?
Nothing. I'm on a little planned time at home here. I needed to not travel for a couple weeks, so I'm not doing that. It really took it out of me going to your defense.
Me too.
It was really stressful, was it?
Yeah, I'm sorry, that was really fucking
I had to get up and leave the room.
I didn't realize.
I think we should point out once again.
I'll make sure I take that into consideration next time I defend.
If you'd quit being such an asshole about all this, Ron, it'd be great.
So demanding, Ron. You're just demanding so much of us at the moment.
As they say, you're a lot.
Again,
you're a lot.
If I had a nickel.
Oh, how's Ron? He's a lot. He's a lot.
Fucking lot.
If I'm not mistaken, I've been told we're talking about safety for humans.
Yeah.
Incidentally,
that's like
.com.
Some company, yeah, like tagline or some
company trademarked that actually.
Ooh.
Yeah, man, that's big time. What do you want to talk about? I'll just answer.
I think the kind of idea, well, in my head anyway, which is probably not the same idea as in both of you guys' heads.
Yeah, cool.
But
yes,
you start, Dave.
In my head anyway,
like, talk. Yes, that is true. Carry on.
One of the three, I guess, safety differently principles, and it's usually sort of thrown around as the first one, is kind of this idea that, you know, people aren't a problem to control, they're a solution to harness. And we've got this whole kind of human-centered kind of approach that is thrown around a lot. So I guess today we're going to talk about, you know, are people can, how people can be at the center of what we do.
It's 8:17 a.m. I think where you are, and Dave's only just rolled out of bed shouting words like can, should, what,
who, where
are people.
What the hell's in this Pringles can?
I think there are two. Well, you rattle off 17 questions, but probably two central ones. One is, are people the solution? And should humans be at the center of this thing we call safety? I have some issues with people are the solution as a blanket statement. I have fewer issues with at the center of safety should be humans, because the beneficiary of controls, of reduction of risk at wherever work is being done, the beneficiary of that capacity that we all say we're building, that's humans, because nobody else gives a shit. The AI doesn't care. The chop saw doesn't care. The hydraulic press doesn't care. It's
The
just
triple
people
expanding
going to
foam
work.
doesn't give a shit.
I'll tell you what doesn't
It's
give a
gonna
shit is
expand triple, motherfucker.
and you know what? Left to its own devices, if it weren't for humans, it might be quadruple expanding.
Just stay in the
I mean,
can.
You know,
Who's to say?
it's too soon, Dave. It's only been 27 years ago or something.
Yeah, for me, it's only been eight episodes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
perfect. So I don't know. Are we done? Is that the whole podcast?
Well, you said you had some problems with it, Ben. So
Yeah.
I'd love to.
What are the
People-
problems?
What are the
Why do you
people-
hate
are the
people?
solution?
Why do you hate people?
Why do you hate babies? Yeah, and puppies. You know what? I got a problem with puppies.
Get back in your
I
bunker,
don't.
Ben.
Whoa.
Wait, what? I do not have a problem with people. I think that I have a fairly rosy view of humans in general, unless I'm in traffic, in which case I think they're all assholes. But look, man, humans we're flawed. We are not always good at solving things. I mean, sometimes we're put in a situation where it's impossible to solve something. So, do I think it's important to understand the context that humans are operating in? Absolutely. Do I think that probably the prompt to some solutions or many solutions, maybe most solutions, come from those conversations and understanding how people perceive what's around them and all the pressures that they're facing? 100%. But the way I see the situation is different than the way you do. And I think if we're not careful with a blanket statement like people are the solution, we just sort of jump on any answer from people at work is a good answer. And it's very often not the complete or full credit answer. It is a part of something we can make decisions based on, unless those people are in front of me in traffic and they're genuine assholes and they know nothing.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
Or
I
behind
think
me in traffic. I don't know. Or at Costco.
I think any. I think by now on the podcast, anytime that anyone makes some kind of blanket statement like that, I'm just going to turn around and call them fucking lazy, right? Like they've actually.
Oh, I was just setting you up for it. You just don't be
that.
fucking lazy. And I
love
should
the
have
way you
stolen
did that
it from you.
But Ron, you've been around the Safety Differently. I think you're the curator of the safetydifferently.com blog for many years.
I was.
Yeah.
I owned that website for a while.
You
After
owned it, like trademarked it and everything?
Daniel Hummerdahl. No, I did not trademark it.
Should have.
Should have.
I think it got trademarked while I was running it, but not because of me.
Yeah, probably to protect it from you.
Yeah, yeah, that's wise actually. No,
Before this
so
guy fucks this up, let's trademark it.
I think so. I like the idea of people are the solution, but I agree that as a blanket statement, it's so easily misunderstood and taken to be like, just let people do whatever the fuck they want. And like I've even heard people say things to that effect, that the problem is that, we have all these procedures and all these rules and all these constraints on people. We just need to get rid of all of them and let people do what they want, and what they're doing is better than what we would prescribe for them. And that may be true in some situations, but it's not always true. And that's I think a huge mistake. And I think it's a misunderstanding of the underlying idea.
Yeah,
Where that phrase came from.
And it's problematic because it sort of ignores organizational memory, I think, too, and makes everything so individual that, somebody gets abducted by the aliens or wins the Powerball or whatever. All that sort of local knowledge goes away. When we could make some really good policy or procedure or process, again, not a blanket statement, right? It's not meant to be. And I don't think that concept of humans are the solution. Whoever uttered those words probably wasn't thinking, this is a blanket statement. It's probably Ron uttered those words. I think
it was me. No, it was not me.
No.
I think, Ron, you mentioned the underlying idea, and for me, the underlying idea has always been that connecting this idea with work as imagined, work as done. If it's the people who imagine the work, who prescribe the details of the work, I think, and what people and judging what people are doing as being correct or incorrect, then I think that statement was all about just go and fucking ask people and go and fucking learn about work, and then work with people to figure out
being lazy,
the better ways of doing things, right? And I think that's the underlying idea, and I think that's okay. I think that doesn't mean that what people who are doing the work think is the best way to do it is the way that the organization will decide is the best way to do it. But without that consideration and without that input, you've only ever got part of the story, right?
Yeah. Well, because I think a lot of times people will understandably, like people who are very resistant to new view ideas, but they'll push back on that because well, no, people are the problem sometimes. And I don't necessarily agree with that as a blanket statement either, but I understand where they're coming from, because it makes it seem like when we say people are the solution, that people can do no wrong.
Yeah.
And that, I think that's just a fundamental misunderstanding.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think most of the time that statement might be right, but like you put Ben in a forklift with a can of triple expanding foam, and there's
right now, like today,
absolutely no question that Ben is the problem, right? Absolutely no question.
I like Taylor Swift says, it's me. I'm the problem.
Yeah. And then people are the solution. Then it goes a step further and goes, well, the forklift didn't work. How the hell else can we break this open?
In spite of an imperfect system, I solved the problem of releasing the triple expanding foam from the grips of tyranny.
And even the cling wrap, even the first aid it was all just people are the solution.
Yeah. Absolutely. Just local rationality. There was not, I mean, holy shit balls. Yeah. It's such a good example for so many reasons. There's a lot of good examples that come from my life. Like, I believe the term safety squint is a well-known term now.
Warning examples?
Yeah.
What is it? Safety squirt?
Squint. Do you know what that is?
No.
A safety squint, like when you're grinding something, but your glasses are over there, and you're like, you do this. Yeah. Or I'm pretty famous for doing tack welds that way.
Yep.
Like doing the safety squint.
And altercations with mountain lions.
Yes, sir.
Just it can end whenever, but the problem is it won't. You're going to be out here in October.
November.
Why'd you say it like that?
I know. Don't make it weirder than it needs to be, Dave.
Yep, I'll be there.
And that is prime cougar season for
Dave. Buddy.
Ooh, yeah.
You better get your tags, because you guys are going to be bagging some cougars
into the fall.
God.
I don't know about
if you missed it, just in my defense, if you've missed this on earlier episodes, I was ruthlessly attacked by
a cougar.
Yeah. By a woman who took her shirt off in a bar to show me a tattoo, which was unsolicited and unwanted, for the record. And weird.
Cougars are the solution.
He was showing off for Dave. Cougars are the solution. Now that is a blanket statement.
Yeah. That needs to go on something.
That's a shirt. That's a t-shirt.
So I think
sorry, Dave always is good at bringing us back here.
So the idea, so if humans aren't at the center of what we're doing, and I think they should be, but then it's like management and automation at the center of what we're doing, and so I think that seems to be like a position that people hold, which is let's just make people less and less involved in the work, right? And let's try and get automation to be more and more involved.
I mean, this is
because it's more
Taylorism.
Because it's more reliable. Right? The assumption it's more reliable.
That the system is when it's uninterrupted by people, doing the thing perfectly well. And those sort of things, I mean, I don't know, you sort of see it despite what people say when the metric of productivity is just effort, which is sort of like what you say, Dave, right? Safety work versus safety of work, right?
There's a
When
paper on that, Ben. I can send it through.
it's probably more than
Who wrote
one,
that
if
paper?
if I were to guess.
There is.
Is
There
that
is. I mean, at the stretch, there's probably 3.
is there is it trademarked?
No,
Hmm.
but
But it
you
is
can go.
now.
You can,
I'm
but
putting the application in
Yeah.
now.
but you could. You could. How about this, Ben? How about you trademark safety work, and I'll trademark safety off work.
Oh yes.
I love that for us. And then we'll swap countries
Yes.
and do the other one. So I'll
It'll
get the
just be.
Aussie trademark on the
It'll
other
just be
one.
letters
So
back.
purple.
It'll just be letters back and forward across the Pacific.
That's
You'll have
fantastic.
to desist and I'll cease.
Aw.
But neither one of us can do both.
Got it. But
But
yes,
together.
Perfect. Okay, back to our
Yeah.
previously scheduled episode. Not that far previously. So I don't know, man. I was thinking about this while you were talking about papers you've written, because I blanked a little bit there. Is this idea of maybe humanism, and I am not a philosopher, but I think that sort
We
of
know.
humanistic, yeah. I mean, it's a doctor of philosophy after all, isn't it? Ron knows. He's just learning about it.
it's on his wall. If he turns his background off, it's just a big.
It's just actually, it's a cocktail napkin with crayon on it right now, but it'll be on the wall soon. But maybe that humanistic approach, right? Which is, and I'm going to completely fuck this up because I am not an expert in the field, but maybe between the three of us, we'll get there. Is something to do with the sort of right to um to well, safety in this case, right? But the right to self-determination and sort of personal choice and freedom and all these sorts of things. I don't know. Does that sound sort of like a humanistic approach, or have I made all that up?
I think you're bordering on the oldest philosophical debate about determinism and free will, right? So,
Oh, good. Jesus. That's another episode. I think we've passed the torch on behavioral safety expertise from me to Ron lately, but I'm sure we'll both weigh in on it. Yeah, for the record, I like to think that there's some self-determination here.
I think
I'm sure Ron will tell me
Wrong. No.
I think it's a question of what's creating safety, and I think Ron might get this better than me. But Dave Woods, made a statement that's something like the only reason that our systems function in any way kind of safely or reliably is due to the spontaneous actions of responsible, people in the system, right? And so
that sounds smart, like a Dave Woods.
Does sound really smart, doesn't it? Spontaneous and responsible, and
Yeah.
he probably used far more, many more words than that. But
With much more syllables.
I think that's a really good proposition to sort of consider here. Is like, are our systems safe because of people, or are our systems kind of like unsafe because of people? And I think that's, for me, central to the mindset about this question about human-centered safety. Are we just trying to help people protect themselves, or are we actually just enabling people to basically keep our systems functioning?
Can you hold both of those ideas at once? I mean, I think that's this is to me
almost like a
part that
paradox,
people,
I guess.
sure, could be
So
like that. But it seems like when you're talking to people, so I had a fellow visit the office today who was in nuclear safety with the Department of Energy and shutting down stuff that will clearly kill people for 40 years or something like that, 30 some years.
Like decommissioning.
Yeah. Yep. And then burying, I guess, because that's a fun thing to do with face melting material. But
Unless
you
you're
know,
in
a
the
pretty
bunker.
old unless you're in Dave's bunker, but a pretty old school view of safety, despite DOE having some really, really cool stuff and resilience engineering and HPI and HOP and all these things. That was not really his jam during his tenure there. So we were talking about this, and I think the hang up for him, and it is for a lot of people who are coming from that sort of older thinking about safety, same place where I started, is that idea of trying to reconcile that paradox, right? Like, wait a minute. Sometimes the system is good, right? Would be the answer, especially in a nuclear facility, right? Sometimes the system is good. Like, don't touch the damn thing, or you might knock it out of equilibrium, and that's bad. So, how do you explain that to someone who is wrestling with that idea? Now it's Ron's turn.
Well, I don't know, but I will say, like, something that I always think is super interesting and ironic in this discussion of, people are the solution, people-centered safety, which probably emerged as a phrase, like the people are the solution, probably, if I had to guess, in like 2012, 2013, 2014, somewhere in that ballpark. But in 2005, Dave Woods and Eric Hollnagel published Joint Cognitive Systems.
Yep. Good book.
And it's a really good book. The first page, it's like
there are some really good dissertations, I would say, that sort of build on that.
This quote just always jumped out at me in this discussion. People, sinners or saints, an old debate to be sure, but a false position that continues to fail to improve performance or safety as it assumes the wrong unit of analysis and design. The path to success begins with recognizing the paradox that simultaneously we are both the source of success and of failure as we create, operate, and modify human systems for human purposes. And like, I just think that
have that. Is that just
the guy? Check out the research.
What the
you like
hell
that?
is going on? We literally had no prep time, and Ron's like, download, search.
Boom.
Is that
Jesus?
Where is it? Is it on your desk?
No, my iPad's right here. So I like, when we started talking, it just popped in my head. So I just popped up Kindle
the whole
real quick.
Quote.
That's right, and I have it highlighted. So this is what
it's
happens.
Like a pocket. It's like a pocket constitution.
So like,
for Ron.
you learn things and like you remember them sometimes.
Shut up.
But like, to me, like, I think so. To me, part of the way we reconcile that paradox is, like, probably the least interesting part to most people in that quote is where, because it's a very academic thing for them to say, is when they say it's the wrong unit of analysis.
Yeah.
Right. Because
I think that's the best part of that quote.
I think it's the most important, right? Because
you're looking at the wrong thing, baby.
Yeah, like, because their whole point as they continue on is we need the problem we're trying to solve for is not humans, it's complexity, right? The complexity of the work environment. And sometimes having a well-designed system is the solution in some contexts. Sometimes, back to your point earlier, Dave, about like automation and procedures and stuff, sometimes that's not the solution. Sometimes that's the problem.
Yeah.
Right. But always the question is, does this help people deal with the complexity inherent in that work? That's the question.
Yeah,
whether the people are the solution or not.
Amplify the funky stuff.
Exactly.
And I think that
Marky Mark would say
that quote and Ben's example about nuclear, I think when I think about a work system, I think about an envelope of operation, right? Like, so there's boundaries in that operational envelope. And I think, to Ben, your example, like, don't touch this because it takes us, into an unsafe state. And I think with that quote, Ron, it's also kind of like, people are going to be making constant adjustments and need to make constant adjustments, and we need to support and enable people to make constant adjustments, and we need to do whatever we can with our people to know where those boundaries are, right?
Yeah. And to reduce the load, that cognitive load that's placed on them, right? If there's a way for me to reduce the number of places that need that constant adjustment, that's a pretty good thing to do, right? You look
Yeah.
at an airliner as recently as, well, more recent even than that, but a 727, right? If you get into that's back when the doors stayed in the airplane. But you look at that airplane and you look at the third seat, which is the flight engineer, and it's just dials upon dials everywhere, just stacks of dials. And this is true in old industrial settings and machinery. And we're just asking people to just monitor a shit ton of stuff and figure out if one or two of these things gets out of whack. And so it's a good example to me of when the switch was from asking a person to identify small deviations to then coming up with systems that would highlight the deviation for them and now say, okay, here's that place within our envelope of operations. We need you to do some thinking, dude.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's cool.
And I love the photos which make their way into presentations or go around where people are finishing the design. And in your example there, Ben, about all the dials, and there'll be like a piece of we call it duct tape. I don't know if you guys call it duct tape as well.
Yeah.
But a piece of tape with some pen where someone's actually written what that dial does, right? Because they've they've messed it up so many times that
or they like sharpied to show how far to turn
it should be.
Yeah.
And you've got this, you talk about this, $500 million, machine and people kind of like writing their own instructions over the dials and that. And I think that goes to show that even in our systems, people are still, it's a design engineer or, a person assembling that system. So, one of the things I think about with our systems is that, people have their fingerprints all over the system, either as individual agents kind of acting in the system or, designing the system or coding the automation or something like that. So, we have to think about people being at the center of everything we're doing because we kind of are.
Yeah, I agree.
Yep.
Well,
at least for now.
Yeah.
The automatons take over.
Yeah.
Octoron.
His plan is almost complete.
There's more and more Rons. Just
so many
flooding,
so many morons.
Society. The Octorons
just when you think you've seen them all, there are morons.
They're morons. Yeah. You can never have enough runs, especially Octorons.
That's the story of my life.
They eat old people's medicine for fuel.
That's not what she said.
And Fat Mike just behind you making that face.
Like, what? But like, okay, but I mean, on its face, if we get away from the people of the solution, get towards
the funny quote, by the way, too. Just
what
Octoron went to on its face. Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
But like people agree. I would assume it'd be hard to find people who would disagree with the idea that people are the center of safety as a statement. I don't know that we would agree on a definition of that statement, though, right? And I think because there's so many different approaches. Just like I bet that guy who was the old school nuclear guy would say, "Yeah, people are the center of safety. We need to do whatever we can do to get them to just fucking follow the rules."
I think again, though, that's not a full credit. That statement by itself doesn't stand.
Yeah.
Like I think and I think about it as people are the beneficiaries, right? So it's something that improves something for the people at their point of work, whatever that point of work is, right? So Dave, you've talked about before, like if all this stuff that we're doing doesn't result in a reduction of work or a reduction of risk, reduction of work sounds good.
Nice too.
But if we're not reducing risk, then it's kind of stupid. We're just fucking around.
Yeah.
And so if it's not reducing risk for people, if they're not benefiting from the work that we're doing, and I'm not sure that amplifying how much we tell them they're stupid or something is really benefiting them.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe that's getting closer to an answer, or maybe we don't need one.
I
don't know.
I think another quote that I like because I wrote it is that
guy
is that
he's quoting himself now.
No, I know. I'm going to quote him quoting himself.
But
We get a shirt that says
This is a self-referential system.
Blah, 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 blah. Dave proven.
the idea that well, no, the idea that safety is not a standard to be achieved; it's a point of consensus amongst stakeholders. And the idea behind that idea, and I think to your point, Ben, is when we say people are the solution or the problem, there's this kind of really binary right and wrong. But when we look at any system, the kind has got to be is maybe we don't know exactly what's right and wrong and exactly what the standard should be in all situations. But if we get all of the people together that have a perspective on this system, whether it's the nuke engineers and the operators and the safety team and the managers, and if we can just get more collaboration into the system, and if we can find a way that or a way of working that all of the stakeholders kind of can agree is a good way of doing this, then maybe that's what safety is about, right? And in so much of what we do in safety, we kind of ignore that consensus kind of building step or that genuine collaboration step, which is we're going to ask you, we're going to listen to you, and all of us only have part of the puzzle.
And that can feel, I think, you said collaboration, which I think feels sunnier than maybe some of this is in practice for people. I think sometimes it's a negotiation.
Well, I also said consensual, like, so consent is kind of important as well.
No inappropriate
as
safety
a blanket statement, consent is very important.
As we learned in Golden, didn't we, Ben?
We did. It was I was not consenting. No consent. I was just shouting no consent over and over. That'll be fun next time. Look, I can feel like an arm wrestle, I think, to people. And again, I've just been around a lot of folks lately who are sort of dragging out of the 50s way of thinking about safety. And it is sometimes dragging, right? Of saying, they say, well, not everybody should have a vote, right? Like, there are people who know the answer to these things, and the consensus should be amongst those people and not everybody. And you go, hold up, man. And again, it's that binary view. And I think that's the struggle.
Communism, democracy.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. No, exactly. Right. And the answer
11.
is, the answer is very much, it depends for a lot of these things, except for Dave. He's a communist.
Yeah, clearly, obviously.
And Ben gets around a lot.
Well, I think
neither of these things are true.
No.
Like, to that end, about about not being so taken with dichotomies, this whole alignment piece of it is, I think we also have to see it not as a either or, like a compromise where you have to give up something and I have to give up something, because in any given sort of complex system where you're adapting to and you're trading off against multiple goals, you're naturally going to adapt in one direction, which is going to make you under adapted in another direction. So you need some sort of capacity to monitor and adjust when conditions change, and you all of a sudden now need to reorient and prioritize other goals. So, like, the consensus is an ongoing process that you continually achieve and continually adjust to, not a one time, oh, we're all in agreement, we're moving in this direction, now we're done. It's got to be a continual discussion. Hey, how are we doing? Is this good? Is this working for people? Where are we seeing pain points that we didn't expect, and how do we need to adjust?
So does that
that's the perfect, I think that's the example of people being the solution, right? If we go back to that question of that constant consensus building,
and I think
the system is not doing that by itself, right? That's people adapting it. I'm going to keep talking to Dave talks.
For another quote, I guess, from Sydney Decker.
I was hoping it was another Dave Proven quote.
No, Ron, Sid will find a way to get Ben to meet him this year.
Yeah, he's
eventually for the fifth.
What do you mean tier one, Sid?
But tier one. But
tier twos are sometimes in those conversations.
So I think your idea that idea there, Ron, was, like, an organization that can keep a conversation about risk alive even when everything looks safe, right? Because I think that's what your point there is about this sort of continual dialogue that needs to happen around work. Because if work's constantly, if the context around work is constantly changing and adapting, and work's having to constantly change and adapt as a result, then the conversation needs to be constantly happening between stakeholders.
Some of that chronic unease that you hear in.
So like updating the model of work, model of risk, to quote Dave Woods,
He's man,
and
somebody
I think
give this guy a PhD. He's
fucking hell.
It's you just got to know. You just
thirsty as
walk
fuck
around with 3 solid quotes in your head, and you'll sound smart all day.
I had that one ready queued up. It's been here for actually all 11 episodes. I finally got to use it.
Just waiting for your opportunity.
But like, I think, I was thinking about this earlier today related to something else. And I was thinking not about you at all. Like, I actually spend a good part of my day, like, intentionally, exercising my ability to not think of you. Like,
So
in a really
there it is. Took a long time to spit it out.
Punk rock safety WhatsApp chat for
but no, I think I think one of the things that we are trying to achieve is not like some sort of perfection or some sort of goodness. It's like, it's fitness, and fitness with the situation, with the environment, right? And like, that's a human thing that we have to evaluate, work together to do. And I like that framing of fitness, because like, are we fit with this, or is this fit? Does this fit the situation? Because then the situation can change, and now all of a sudden what we were doing, which was working, is no longer working. We now need to adjust to something else. I think
the TikTok kids call that a fit check.
Right? Oh shit.
Ooh, yeah. Trademark the shit out of that.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure someone did.
Yeah, like fit for purpose, fit for context, just general fit. I like it.
Maybe just fit forever. And it's a good sort of chest tattoo.
That's a t-shirt right there.
Fit for safety. Safety fit.
The safety fit. I'm sure has that shit. Yeah.
24-hour fitness. Oh, do you think anybody's got that one trademarked? Do they have those in Australia?
24. 25-hour.
25-hour
Holy
fitness.
Shit. No, I think we've definitely got 24-hour fitness places. Clearly I don't frequent them, but but they've all got brands and that around it. Like, so that
well, we have one literally called.
I was going to say, apparently you don't have.
Yeah, no, we don't.
That's what we were asking about.
We've got the concept.
It's fine. You don't have to name all the fucking fitness places that are open 24 hours. It was a clear question, Dave.
Good time to invest in the F45 franchise.
Fit
or Peloton.
Excellent. 24-hour, 25-hour fitness. That's our next merch.
It's just that 25th hour that gets me every day.
That's really
that's where people are weak and they just fuck the system.
Yeah.
Completely.
You want people to be the solution? It's 25 hours, motherfucker.
In that 25th hour, if you just pay a little more attention, if you just care a little more.
I like that.
I think
so. People,
probably.
I think we've kind of gone, well, people are at the center of what we do, sure, clearly, and they're the center of our systems. And so one of the things that I've been thinking about, I really like your guys' opinion on this, is about that operating envelope. Because for me, having people kind of as central actors in our systems allows those sort of constant adjustments, like to see things that maybe haven't happened before, or recognize kind of like certain types of patterns and see and adjust. And I sort of feel like people keep the operating envelope to be quite narrow. And, the idea of automation or, getting to decide is, I kind of feel like it's much more binary. It's like the system's kind of like reliably on this line or completely fucked, right? Like there's no way, there's no like snafu catching going on, right? There's no there's no sensing and responding to things. It's kind of like the Boeing example where the plane either flies or the plane either crashes. And without the pilots kind of being able to make these adjustments, kind of like keeps it on its narrow. So I've been kind of like thinking about this idea of people being the ones that actually keep our systems functioning in that kind of like, boundary, but it's a broader boundary than it would be if it was just kind of like an automated system. I don't know if any of that makes any sense.
I think so.
I think so. I mean, I think as an envelope, I like that description. I usually, being from Kansas, I think in very simple terms. So I usually think of it as sort of a fence, right? And within the fence line, we get some space, that freedom to operate, right? And maybe the fence line can even be moved sometimes with consensus, right? With some collaboration of the stakeholders involved.
Taylor and Travis.
Yes. So I think I'm going to say back to you what I think you were saying, and you can tell me why it's wrong, because I don't. Yeah. Ron's going, yeah, please. Is the machine, the system, whatever it is, all by itself, operates within some limitations. It's narrow, and outside of that, the red light starts flashing. Is that okay?
Yeah, it's systems on or off, right? It's black or white.
Yeah, or it has some variation, but it's not a lot, right? So if you think about like an autopilot, mostly because I like airplanes, right? There is some deviation that is acceptable within the autopilot, but it's not a lot.
Yeah.
It's 100 feet plus or minus or something like that. But to have the ability to decide, and there's a cool pilot trick that you get to do, right? Where ATC, air traffic control, would tell you, descend at pilot's discretion, which is neat, because otherwise there is a system for how you have to do it. But there are times when you have that entire fence line to work with, and they say, all right, the system is stable, things are working as we expect, descend at pilot's discretion.
Put this thing on the runway.
Sure. And you can do, cleared for the visual is another cool one. You're not on some sort of prescribed approach. You fly the airplane by sight to the earth, hopefully in a successful way, hopefully with all the doors.
Yeah.
But I think those are good examples of it, Dave, where, ordinarily this thing, it maybe flies or it doesn't, is a little harsh, but it flies within a very narrow window of acceptability, or the lights and horns start to go. And then there are times when, because we have people who can make decisions and trade-offs and adaptations, you can say, descend at pilot's discretion, cleared for a visual approach, those sorts of things.
I don't
know.
Is that kind of what you were saying?
Did we get there?
Yeah. It's just this, for me, an automated system is incredibly brittle, right? An engineered automated system, because it only knows what it's been designed to do in a very narrow range of contexts and situations, like a predefined range of contexts and situations. So you've got no capacity for adaptation.
Would you say it's robust but not resilient?
I would.
I mean, are we building robust systems through automation, but we're sacrificing a whole lot of resilience?
Yeah.
Oh, it was 2 against 1. So
yeah. So I think
a robust system is meant to resist change.
Yeah. Robust, rebound, resilient, sustained adaptability, four fundamentals of resilience.
You broke him. He's just saying words now.
I know. Now he's just in a cycle. We broke him. He's only quoting himself.
I'm just wondering how robust that system is, right? Like that system is robust for the circumstances that we've designed it to be robust for.
Right. Like in this, I think this is a whole other topic. Maybe we should get on the list. It's like technology, AI, that kind of stuff.
After BBS.
After BBS, eventually, yeah, we'll get there.
So Fukushima is robust except for the tsunami, right?
Well, that's the point, right? Like, so you see a lot of people.
But that's the brittleness part.
Developing, exactly. They develop these systems that work really well to do what they're designed to do, but like
in a narrow window.
exactly in that fence line, to use Ben's analogy. But once you operate at the fence line, it becomes very brittle, right? And the very little to no means to extend the boundary, to adjust it, to it's doing what it's designed to do, and that's all it's going to do. And once it fails often quite quickly.
Another solid Dave Woods quote: "The system always does what it was designed to do, just not always what the designer intended."
Exactly. Right. And systems are brittle at boundaries. Like, that's just a fact of life. And so this is the big mistake I see a lot of technology people who are moving in technology spaces making, is that they're trying to design really reliable technological systems without understanding how that system interfaces with the rest of the system. So Fukushima worked really well until Mother Nature was like, fuck off.
Check this out.
Well, but that's that idea of robustness, right? It's robustness. A robust system resists adaptation or resists change. So Fukushima really robust, but can't deal with perturbation, which is fun
for me, being in California, like the other example that actually came from Japan was before that, when Kobe, Japan, when they had an earthquake. It was like 1995, and if you Google it, you will see, Japan's has a lot of earthquakes, so they designed for earthquakes, but they designed these huge, robust like systems, like these overpasses that had massive pylons that were designed to withstand massive earthquakes. But the problem is, once they broke, they just tipped over, right? Like, they literally you just see these huge things just fell over.
Speaking of tipping over, there's a lot of tipping over down.
Funnily enough, I was in Japan.
Hear all of it.
I was in Japan before COVID, in Tokyo, and the hotel is a Hilton hotel, starts shaking, right? Like madly shaking. I'm like, earthquake. So I'm like in my boxer shorts, down the stairwell, run out into the foyer of this place, and everyone's just going about their normal business, checking in, checking out, eating meals, and I'm standing there in my boxer shorts, and I walk over to the concierge desk and said, "Did you just feel that?" They go, "Yes, happens all the time. The building does what go to bed."
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm the only person who didn't realize that. The system was perfectly within its envelope.
And that's that to me, like, now they design earthquakes, and this is how it is in California where I live, to actually be able to withstand it, to like move with the earthquake a little bit, which is scary as hell when you're in the earthquake. Like, when you're in a building during an earthquake, like especially high rise, scary as hell, because you will feel the movement of the building, like literally like moving. But that's the best way to do it, because it moves with the movement, right? That's the adaptation. That's the difference between robustness and resilience.
Yeah. So I think that's a really good point. Without people, there's no extensibility of our system, right? Because I think, to your point there, Ron, is that, our system might be reliable 99% of the time when it's functioning within that. But as soon as it hits that boundary, without people, the system is gonna collapse really, really fast. The cascade just won't be arrested by the system itself. The plane will fly itself into the ground.
No. Well, this is where
it'll do it really well.
Or the autonomous vehicle, or
probably like one of the things it's best at. But this is where it gets back to something you said earlier. Like, if we design our AI, our procedures, whatever, with the belief that we need to replace people because they are the problem, then we will inherently introduce new forms of brittleness. Whereas if we design AI procedures, all that stuff, with the idea that, no, we're helping people cope with the complexity of the work. And so it's going to augment the human, whether the human's a problem or a solution doesn't fucking matter. That's when you're going to be able to leverage that graceful extensibility of people.
I was waiting for when we'd get graceful extensibility in here, and I'm pretty pleased that it's happened.
Drink.
That's another shirt.
What? Graceful extensibility drink?
Something about there's got no, just graceful.
I still think we need to do drunk safety theory, like drunk history, where like we get drunk and try to explain.
Is that
different
not what we're
theories.
doing here? Maybe I got the wrong memo because I thought that was sort of what this is.
But yes, that's
It's essentially what's happening.
I love that for us.
Have we solved it?
Yeah, we've solved
I
it.
think we solved it.
Like, give a shit about your people more than you give a shit about your system and your rules.
Yeah, care more.
Care more. Don't be so fucking lazy.
Yeah. I think that it comes back to, I think what a lot of people like to say now is it's not managing safety, it's managing safely or leading safely,
Noggle.
which takes that focus away. What's up, Eric?
I think there's a leading Safe Lead podcast or something. I think you guys were on it.
Hadn't heard of it.
No, I most assuredly was not.
I wasn't. Almost on it. I think Ron was almost on it twice.
Yeah, there was a couple whiffs.
I had 3 strikes, literally.
A couple misfires. Yeah.
Well, it's a lovely name for a podcast because I think it gets back to, we're not doing this shit for the system. We're not doing it for, to say that it's about safety. We're trying to do something that benefits the people doing the work.
Yeah. Yeah. See, Ron, you've replaced your cocaine water bottle with a nice new blue one. Is that out of the merch store, or is that not out of the merch store?
No, this is not out of the merch store. I don't think we have blue water bottles. So
wow, you're here as long as you need to spit
just
that
hold
out.
back, man. Just save it for after the podcast.
You have no idea what's in this water bottle.
It's not cocaine water, I'll tell you that. You'd be a whole lot clearer if it was.
Fucking hell.
Go to the merch store, by the way. I mean, if you're still listening to this episode, there's some new stuff. It's cool.
It's cool.
This is sort of a side project to the merch store.
Yeah.
I'm going to London next week. I might be able to wear my jacket.
Ooh, it's summer, man. Come to Australia and you'll be able to wear it.
Yeah, but it's London. Like, their definition of hot is not.
It's middle of July, man. It'll be 90.
It's still summer.
But it's
Ron's
the sun doesn't just
weather
skip the UK.
Well, it does a lot of times, I guess, skip the UK, doesn't it?
It's even fucking raining today. Look at you guys don't even know what the hell you're talking about.
That's true.
That is true.
70
Dave has no papers on weather.
Oh my god, I can totally bring my jacket. You guys, you're friggin' high.
Ron loves to jacket, especially in London.
Excellent. That's it. There's a t-shirt. There's a t-shirt.
On that note.
Thank you for hanging out for episode 11. Let's do it again.
All right. See you all next week in the fortnight.
In the fortnight.
Perfect.
Not the video game.
Yeah. Thanks for clarifying.
Bye.
Bye.